So you got, one of the sisters from Louisiana, one of the Creole sisters, is going to kind of explain to you just a little bit of their history. But, she's a lot right in what she's saying. But my grandmother told me a lot about the Creole history. Because my grandmother, is from Louisiana. But let's go ahead and roll that clip.
Would you believe that there's a document that proves that they actually had a pact that they would do that? Okay, there's a lot of talk about why is it that so many Creoles married other Creoles. There's a term or a phrase they used to say, keeping it in the family. And it was literally that. Am I saying that my ancestors were committing incest? No. What that meant was, we had a class of people of our own. The gens du couleur were in a very unique position. They could not marry slaves. They could not marry whites sometimes. Sometimes they could, sometimes they couldn't based on the law. Did they have consensual relationships outside of marriage? Yes, they did. Here's the thing. These people were not like us. They had a whole different set of dynamics, and it was a different world, a different time. Socially, there were things that weren't acceptable. Think of it however you want to, but what wasn't acceptable at the time were people who made a certain amount of money dating down or marrying down, okay? These people were all about looks. Okay, now appearances, that was big. They could not marry down. That's literally, it was like, when I tell you that these people were the richest people in America, it was like a Kardashian dating a high school basketball coach. It was like that. I'm telling you, they were rich. They were rich with a capital R. So many of the people who were slaves that didn't work themselves up, right, after they became free or whatever, they couldn't marry them, and they couldn't marry whites sometimes. So what they did was they all created a little community within themselves because they were not really able to mix outside of that. And they kind of ran with their own people just the same way that we do in terms of finances. It wasn't skin tone, it was finances. If you were on their level financially, okay? Now, many of them tried to keep the money within the family because it was their way of trying to build community, because so many things with the whites, it was problematic. So this was their Black Wall Street type of mentality. They had made pacts to marry each other's families, and that's what they did.
Now, what she said in a lot of ways is correct, but some things that she did not say. Now, she's right. They did not marry people that look like me, my color, right? Because a lot of them wanted to preserve that color. Like my grandmother said, I'm more inclined to believe my grandma because my grandma has never steered me wrong. She said they want to preserve that color. So she told me, somebody like you, no. Matter of fact, this is my grandma said, you got to be careful with them little Creole women. And I'll say, why do you say that? He said, because in order to preserve that color, if they could not, like she said, get with other Creoles, they would get with a third and fourth cousin, just so they can preserve that color. They had things like the Blue Vein Society. Some of them even owned slaves as well. Oh, yes. And then a lot of them thought that they can go with the white folks. A lot of them could pass. And then when the white folks find out what they got going on, say, hey, baby, you don't get your behind from up here with us. Get yourself right back there with them black folk. You don't belong up here. Because they will treat a lot better in society than someone that look like me. You understand what I'm saying? So my grandmother said, yeah, you got to be real careful. She said, don't let them green eyes they got in that light skin or that gray eyes, He said, don't let none of that fool you. He said, because, boy, he said, you don't know what you're dealing with sometimes, he said, with them. That's what my grandmother was saying. But we have to understand the quote unquote Creoles was just an offshoot of the legacy of slavery. Because you have to understand, there was no such thing as a Creole coming from the continent of Africa. That is the white man's print on causing genetic confusion. That's what it really is. Now, I'm not saying the Creoles of today, no, nothing like that, because they'll tell you they black in a minute. You can hear her voice. If you wasn't sitting up there looking at her, you would think, oh, okay, well, that's another black girl, right? But, you know, she light skinned, whatever, she'll throw you off. But if you go to Louisiana, you see plenty of that. Plenty of that. If you're that kind of brother that's into them kind of women, you know, and some of the women are into that kind of men, you know, so you know how that goes. But, you know, anyway, that's part of the history. And you can get more deeper into the history of the Creoles and all of that. But yeah, I just want y'all to kind of hear that, because yeah, some of that she's saying is definitely 100% correct. But some of them, like I said, didn't like, you know, the people that look like me. I'm gonna say more so the people that's more closer to the African origin. Hey, there you go. But let me know what y'all think about what this sister talking about here. You know, like I said, hey, if you say she a sister in the community, and most Creole people say they black people, so you know, hey, I rock with you. You know, as long as you're not on that, oh, I'm not one of y'all deal.